Okay, so today we have 113 patients who are coming in amongst all the providers. And so we've spoken about how we interact with patients. We've spoken about treating them as people, not diseases. We've spoken about treating them as someone's loved one, as someone's brother or sister or father or mother or spouse. We've spoken about all these things. But we don't just have 113, is that right? Patients coming through the door today. We also have whoever's attached to them, whoever's coming in the office with them. We also have our vendors who are coming in, people who drop off our slides, people who deliver our supplies, maybe the Jimmy John's person who delivers our lunch. And we also have the 40 people who are in this room. Okay? And I want all of us to think about, I think we are really good with separating ourselves from what's going on in our personal life so it doesn't impact our patients. But today and every day, I'd like to focus on thinking about everybody with whom we interact as a patient as well. That means our coworkers. That means everybody. There's a philosophy in life, right? And we all know it, that we treat our spouses and our loved ones worse than we would treat a stranger on the street. Somehow we think it's appropriate to treat the people who are closest to us worse than we would ever treat a stranger. We all know this. Think about it in our own lives. Think about how many times we've interacted with somebody who's been a friend for 20 years, who's a loved one, who is a spouse, who is a child, and we think, God, would I ever in a million years speak that way or talk that way to someone I just met? And so I want to take that thought and I want it to go into our personal lives, but I also want it to go into our professional lives. Everybody we meet, everybody we treat, and especially if we're very familiar with them. They are a patient. They are a loved one. They are a human. They deserve our love and respect. And then there's a flip side to that as well. Because if we're taking something on that isn't fair, and all we do is bottle it and call that person an a-hole, and have negative energy going out towards them, what we've done then is saying, you're not worth me helping you in your journey in life. I don't care enough about you to point out that right now, you're not treating me well. We all can think back in times in our lives when something has gone sideways in a relationship. And the worst thing, except for abuse, the next worst thing is completely being ignored. That other person views you as so invaluable, they're not even willing to express anger towards you. And yet we do that all the time in our personal and professional lives, to the person who's sitting to the right of us, to the person who's to the left of us. We think, oh, that person's just a jerk. They're always a jerk, and then we have negative thoughts going home, and so that whole thing just spins all night long. Negative energy, negative energy, negative energy. Instead of actually loving the person next to you and saying, hey, did you mean to say that? Hey, I don't think that went over well. And then the last part of all of this is, how do we speak to ourselves? What is our internal dialogue? How many people, when you do something wrong, I don't need to see a show of hands, but how many of us say, oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm worthless. How did I make it this far in life? How could I be so stupid? Fill in any of those blanks. Because I would bet that the vast majority of us speak to ourselves in manners that we would never, ever speak to somebody that even was our least favorite person on the planet. And I think it's instructive to say how we speak to ourselves is going to be how we interact with the world. It's not a secret, guys. If we are showing negativity and always putting other people down, all that is a reflection of us. If we're trying to build people up and we have grace with ourselves, we might just have grace with the person next to us. You know, there's this thought and this process that being negative is tough and strong. It's actually the weakest thing you could possibly do. Tearing somebody else down means that there's nothing inside of you. Tearing ourselves down, it's just unacceptable. It's okay. I am working on a lot of stuff. And I hope for the rest of my life I'm working on a lot of stuff. But when I don't measure up, and every day there's multiple times that I don't measure up to my own standards, I can either say, okay, let's examine this, let's try to do better, keep working forward, and over the years we'll get better and better. Or I can say, man, I'm worthless. I'm trash. I'm nothing. You would never say that to somebody else. It's not honoring to say it to yourself. And that will show by how you treat the person to the right of you, the person to the left of you, the person who we're trying to help medically, and the person who they're coming in with. So let's start with the basics. Let's start with Genesis. Okay? Let's start with, how do I talk to myself? How do I love myself? How do I hold myself accountable in an honoring way? And then let's spread that to everybody we meet today. And when I fail, I expect you guys to come up to me and say, hey, Doc, I kind of feel this way when you say this. Help me become the person who I someday want to become. Okay? Let's have a good day.